Good morning, children. So hope you are all revising the lessons properly. So in the previous part of chapter review, we have done electrostatics part 1 and part 2. So in today's class, we'll be going through the chapter of current electricity. Okay, definitely even from current electricity, we may expect one question either from the first part of the lesson, okay, or from Kirchhoff laws and its applications. So if you just observe the chapter, okay, look at the main points that you have to go through. Okay, so you may get questions related to all the definitions and terms, like what is current, questions related to electric current, current density, drift velocity, drift and thermal velocities, then resistivity, conductivity, resistance, conductance, Ohm's law, temperature, coefficient of resistivity. All these are mobility. Okay, from here you may get some conceptual or some simple numericals. Then coming to resistors in series and parallel. Okay, how to evaluate the resistance, equivalent resistance for the given network of a resistance. Then EMF and terminal voltage. Okay, relationship between them. Electrical energy and power. Okay, questions related to heating effects of electric current and so on. Then let's go to Kirchhoff's laws and its applications. Meter bridge. How to find out the unknown resistance, finding out the error and N correction. Then potentiometer, questions related to applications of potentiometer, okay, finding out internal resistance, EMF and terminal voltage. So the whole chapter can be divided into these subtopics. Okay, we'll do quickly one by one. So today first let me start with the first part, that is various terms and their definitions. Okay, now starting with questions related to evaluating the electric current. Okay, we know how did we define electric current. It is the amount of charge transferred across the cross section of the conductor per unit time, or you can also write it as dq divided by dt. So if they give you the amount of charge transferred and the time, you can directly evaluate the current. Or sometimes they may give you an electron is revolving in an orbit, okay, with a certain frequency. Then what will be current equal to? Charge of electron is E, and frequency, okay, by time will give you electric current. If you are given frequency, I will write it as E into F. Or instead of giving the frequency, if you know the radius of orbit and speed with which it is revolving in an orbit, then current will be E by, we know time period can be written as distance by velocity. In a circular orbit, distance is 2 pi r, speed is v. And if it is a Bohr's orbit, okay, say they have given you electron is revolving in the first Bohr's orbit. What is the radius of first Bohr's orbit? 0.529 angstroms for a hydrogen atom. If they give you any other atom, I will write it as n square divided by z. N is the orbit if it is obeying Bohr's atomic model for all hydrogen-like electrons. And speed of electron. Okay, what is the speed of electron? 1 by 137 Zc by n, where Z is the atomic number, C is the speed of light 3 into 10 power 8, n is the principal quantum number. So if they give you radius and velocity, directly put the values. If at all, if they don't give you and they are giving you it is the hydrogen atom electron in the first orbit of hydrogen, Z will be 1, n also will be 1. Find out and then substitute to get the electric current. Or they may give you the how charge is varying with time. Say if charge varies according to the relation. Charge as a function of time is given. Then how to calculate the current? We know current is dq by dt. Differentiate this relation. dq by dt will be 6t plus 2. And if time is given, substitute the value of time. Or giving current versus time graph. Say current is varying with time according to this relation. What is the net amount of charge transferred during this time interval? Remember, area enclosed by I versus t graph will give you the net charge transferred. So either from this or by giving the equation, okay, or by showing you that electron is revolving in an orbit, you may get questions related to evaluation of electric current. Okay, this is a simple application related to current. Okay, now regarding drift velocity and electric current relations. Okay, what is drift velocity? It is the velocity acquired by the free electrons in the presence of an external electric field. Okay, we know we have proved that it is equal to small e into capital E by m into tau, where E is the charge of electron, m is the mass of electron, this is E by m, specific charge of electron. Capital E is the electric field what we have applied, and we know tau is called the relaxation time. And how is relaxation time related to temperature? Inversely. For metals, as temperature increases, relaxation time decreases. If relaxation time decreases, drift velocity also will decrease. And what is the relation between current and drift velocity? I is equal to NEA into VD, where N is the number density, number of free electrons for a metal per unit volume. E is the charge, which is a constant charge of electron. A is the cross-sectional area of the conductor, and VD gives you the drift velocity. And we already have studied that, okay, in the absence of electric field, the electrons are in random motion, and those speeds with which they are moving, it is called thermal speed. What is the order of thermal speed of electrons? Thermal speeds are very high, 10 per 3 meter per second. They move with a speed, very high speed, 10 per 3 to 10 per 5 meter per second. Whereas drift speeds are very low. What is the order of drift velocity? Drift velocity will be very small. In millimeters, that means 10 per minus 3 to 10 to the power minus 4 meter per second. Though drift speeds are very small, it contributes to electric current. So though thermal speeds are very high, they are not going to contribute to any electric current. How to evaluate the thermal speeds? Okay, we know from kinetic theory. Half mv square, the kinetic energy acquired by electrons, is 3 by 2 kT. Okay, where T is temperature and K is the Boltzmann constant. So using this, if you evaluate the thermal speeds, it comes out to be very high. Whereas drift speeds will be generally, in general, they are very, very small. Apart from this, with what speed does the electric field travel when you switch on the bulb? The speed of electric field, it travels with the speed of light. 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second. Okay, remember the order of their velocities. Then coming back to this drift velocity and electric current. Okay, if you substitute the value of Vd from here, we can prove Ohm's law, resistivity, resistance and so on. Okay, if I write it as I is equal to NEA, I am replacing Vd as small e into capital E by m into tau, or I is equal to NE square A tau by m. Okay, if it is passing through a conductor of uniform cross section. Okay, the current in this is I. In such a case, we can write electric field as potential difference by the length of the conductor. Okay, see, we have got V is equal to I into some constant. V is equal to I into ml by NE square A into tau. All these terms will play the role of resistance. So how will you write resistance in microscopic terms? Resistance is equal to M into L by NE square A into tau. If you know resistance, conductance is reciprocal of it. From this you can write its dimensional formula also. So if you know the resistance, is resistance directly proportional to length? inversely related to area of cross section. So the remaining terms we write it as rho L divided by A, where rho is called resistivity. What is resistivity? M by N E square tau. Resistance generally depends on 4 factors. What are the 4 factors? It depends on length, area of cross section, nature of substance, and temperature. Whereas resistivity does not depend on physical dimensions. It depends on only 2 factors: the nature of the substance and temperature. Okay, reciprocal of resistivity, we know it is called as conductivity. Okay, 1 by rho will give you sigma. And since rho is dependent on temperature, we have even studied how is resistivity varying with temperature for metals. Rho T is equal to rho naught into 1 plus alpha into T. Remember, T is taken in centigrade scale. Alpha is called the temperature coefficient of resistivity. So based on this, you may get some applications. If resistivity varies with temperature, resistance also varies with temperature. Okay, you can write RT is equal to R naught into 1 plus alpha into T. Okay, these two relations will tell you how resistivity and resistance vary with temperature. And apart from this, we have also studied the graphs. For metals, how is resistivity changing with temperature? At 0 degrees, it has some resistivity. As temperature increases, resistivity also will increase. This is for metals. Then for alloys, constantan and magnanum, resistivity is linearly varying with temperature with a very small slope. Okay, since slope is very small, it has a very low temperature coefficient, so they are used for manufacturing standard resistances. Then for semiconductors, we know resistivity decreases with increase of temperature. As temperature decreases, we get more charge carriers for conduction, resistivity will decrease. For superconductors, what is the nature of the graph? At 1 temperature, resistivity becomes 0. Okay, it is increasing with temperature, but at a particular temperature called critical temperature, resistance or resistivity becomes 0. That means it behaves as a superconductor at this particular temperature. So these are some of the graphs related to resistivity versus temperature. Then what do you mean by ohmic and non-ohmic substances? Hope you remember. Substances which obey Ohm's law are ohmic and which do not obey Ohm's law are non-ohmic. Say ohmic substances, V versus I graph will be a straight line passing through origin. But if you go for high voltages, it is going to show some deviation. Ohm's law is applicable at low temperatures, not too high temperatures. Then for non-ohmic substances like semiconductors, we have studied VI graph. It is a curve. It won't obey Ohm's law. So these are all some basic definitions. Related to these definitions, they may ask you dimensional formula of current or drift velocity. Then what is mobility? What do you mean by mobility? Okay, we know mobility is defined as the drift velocity acquired per unit electric field. This ratio we call it as mobility. And we have seen in semiconductors, mobility of electrons is more when compared with mobility of holes. So these are some of the basic terms which you have to know. Now let us look into some numericals related to these concepts. Look at this question, the first question related to drift velocity. It is said that there is a steady current which is passing through a conductor of non-uniform cross-section. Okay, what do you mean by non-uniform cross-section? Cross-section is not constant. It may increase or decrease. Then which of the following remains constant? Read the question carefully. The moment you read the first statement, what kind of current is passing through the conductor? Steady current. That means current is going to remain constant. So current will remain constant. Then look at current density. Okay, we know how do we define current density? J is equal to I divided by A. Since area is variable, decreasing, current density also will decrease. So this is not going to remain constant. Hope you remember, no? J is I by A, or you can write I is equal to integral of J dot ds. Current density is a vector quantity. Current is scalar. How is current density related to electric field? J is equal to sigma into E. We call this as Ohm's law in vector form. V is equal to IR as Ohm's law in scalar form, whereas J is equal to sigma is Ohm's law in vector form. So come back to this. Current density is variable. What happens to drift velocity? We know I is equal to NEA VD. N is constant, E is constant, I constant. If A varies, drift also will change. So this is not going to remain constant. What about electric field? We know drift velocity, we can write it as small e into capital E by m into tau. If temperature is constant, tau will remain constant. E and m are anyway constant. How is Vd related to electric field? Directly. Since drift is changing, electric field is also going to vary. So even this is not going to remain constant. So what is the only quantity which remains constant here? Current remains constant. Okay, this is a simple application, okay, which is based on drift velocity. Look at one more question. If drift velocity passing through a conductor, coming to this question, it is given in the question that the drift velocity passing through a conductor of uniform cross section is related to electric field according to this relation. I repeat the question. Area of cross section is constant for the conductor. If drift velocity is proportional to square root of E, what is the nature of I versus V graph? Okay, here I took I on x-axis, potential difference on y-axis. We need a graph between these two. So to start with, we know current is equal to NEA into Vd, where Vd is the drift velocity. So what is Vd proportional to? As per the question, number density is constant, charge constant, it's a uniform cross-sectional area into square root of E. Now we know electric field and potential difference. What is the relationship between them? E is equal to dV by dr or V divided by L. Implies what is I proportional to? Square root of V. Implies capital I, because I took it as capital I, it is related to potential difference according to this relation. Now plot a graph. It is definitely not a straight line. V square is proportional to I, so it should be a parabola. Starts with passing through origin. When current is 1 unit, potential difference is 1. Current is 2 units, what will be the value of V? I square. Okay, what should be the nature of the graph? It is a curve or a parabolic relation. So if current is on x-axis and potential difference on y-axis, this will be the nature of the graph. But be careful, if the reverse is given, potential difference here and current here, okay, then this will be the nature of a graph. So this is how you can predict V versus I graph if electric field is not proportional to, drift velocity is not proportional to electric field. Okay, look at one more conceptual question. They are asking you what happens to resistivity of copper and germanium with decrease of temperature. Okay, we know copper is a metal, germanium is a semiconductor. Just now we have discussed, for metals, resistivity increases with temperature, but we are not increasing the temperature, we are decreasing it. So when you decrease the temperature, this is for copper, resistivity of copper will decrease. Whereas for semiconductors, this is the graph of resistivity versus temperature. So when you decrease the temperature, you are going back. What happens to resistivity? Increases. So increases for germanium or semiconducting materials, decreases in case of copper. Okay, read carefully whether they are asking you increase or decrease of temperature. Okay, so this is one simple conceptual question related to resistivity variation with temperature. Or sometimes the question can be like this. Resistance of a material or a metal is 100 ohms at 100 degrees. Okay, resistance is 100 ohms at 100 degrees. Then at what temperature will the resistance become 200 ohms? given coefficient of resistivity is 0.005 or 0.0005 per degree centigrade. Okay, so some value is given for resistivity, coefficient of resistivity. So from this data you need to find out the temperature at which resistance increases to 200. So always make use of this relation. We know RT is equal to R0 into 1 plus alpha T. What is the resistance? 100 is equal to, we do not know what is the resistance at 0 degrees, I will keep it as it is, 1 plus alpha into temperature is 100, centigrade scale. Next equation, resistance has to become 200. R0 into 1 plus alpha into T. Divide the two relations. 1 by 2 is 1 plus 100 alpha by 1 plus alpha T. Cross multiply and simplify this relation. 1 plus alpha T is 2 plus 200 alpha. Implies alpha T is equal to 2 minus 1 plus 200 alpha. Since we need the temperature, it is 1 plus 200 alpha divided by alpha. Substitute the value of alpha. 1 plus 200 into the value of alpha, 5 into 10 to the power minus 4 divided by 5 into 10 to the power minus 4, or I can write it as 1 by 5 into 10 power minus 4 is 10,000 by 5 plus 200. 2000 plus 200. What is the temperature in centigrade scale? 2200 degree centigrade. And if the options are in terms of Kelvin scale, convert it into Kelvin scale. So always make use of this relation, RT is equal to R0 into 1 plus alpha into T. Okay, similar relation is even applicable for resistivity also. Now look at this question. They have given you two conductors, two identical conductors are given, and they have same resistance at 0 degrees. Okay, at 0 degrees, resistance of the first conductor is equal to resistance of second conductor, but they have a different temperature coefficient of resistivities. One is alpha 1 and alpha 2, here it is alpha 1 and alpha 2. Find the temperature coefficient of resistivity if they are connected in series and if they are connected in parallel. Then in such a case, we know for series combination, resistance is R1 plus R2. From the definition of alpha, can I write alpha as change in resistivity by initial resistivity at 0 degrees for 1 degree rise of temperature? I have written it in terms of alpha. Okay, just now I told you RT is R0 into 1 plus alpha T. So from there, if you write it as alpha, it is change in resistance by initial value into temperature difference. So we have to differentiate this relation with respect to temperature and then substitute the values. Okay, I am not showing you the derivation. So when you do that, we get the equivalent coefficient of thermal resistivity in series combination as alpha 1 plus alpha 2 by 2. Similarly, even for parallel combination, okay, when you simplify, you will get the final answer like this. It is alpha 1 plus alpha 2 divided by 2. I am not showing you the derivation method. Remember this. If they are in series, also we get the same answer. Even in parallel, we get the same answer. That is alpha 1 plus alpha 2 divided by 2. Alpha 1 plus alpha 2 divided by 2. Okay, remember this relation for equivalent temperature coefficient. Okay, now coming to questions related to resistance in series and parallel combination. Let's start with the simple questions first. Say there are n identical resistors connected in series. Okay, each one is having a resistance capital R. What will be the equivalent resistance in series combination? N into R. And this gives me the maximum value of resistance. Then if they are connected in parallel, what is the equivalent resistance? R by N. and this gives me the minimum value of a resistance. So what is the ratio of maximum to minimum value of resistance? If n identical resistors are used, maximum to minimum will be n square is to 1. Okay, so this is a very simple question. Then coming to the second question. If a wire of length L and resistivity rho is stretched. Okay, the moment you see this word stretched, remember volume is going to remain constant. Okay, when you stretch a wire, length increases at the cost of its area of cross section. Then what will happen to its resistance? Okay, if they give you that length is increased to n times or length is doubled and tripled. So make use of this relation. We know resistance is rho L by A. Multiply and divide with L. Rho into L square by area into length will give you volume. So we have to make use of this relation if length is changed by stretching the wire. If it is not stretched, extra length is added, then you can directly use the formula rho L by A. But if the same wire is stretched to double the length or triple the length, then make use of this relation. Rho L square divided by volume. Rho and volume will remain constant. If length is doubled, resistance will increase by 4 times. If area of cross section is halved, say they are saying that the wire is stretched so that area of cross section reduces to half, then in such a case make use of this formula. We know resistance is rho L by A. This time multiply and divide with area of cross section. R is equal to rho into volume divided by A square. Okay, where A is the area of cross section. If area of cross section is decreased, resistance will increase. So when stretched questions are given, make use of these two relations. So on this, if percentage is given, say a wire is stretched to such, it is stretched such that length is increased by 1%. What is the percentage change in resistance? As long as the percentage changes are less than 5%, we can write R percent is equal to, okay, L square. It will be 2 times of L percent. Again, I am repeating the question. If the length of the wire is increased by L percent by stretching, if the percentage changes are less than 5%, then change in resistance or percentage change in resistance is 2 times the percentage change in length, provided L is less than 5%. If it is more than 5%, find out initial and final values and then the change and then find out the percentage. So these are some simple questions related to resistors in series and parallel. Okay, let us look into how to evaluate the equivalent resistance for various networks. I have given you only one for each model. Start with the first question. So when you have metal wires connected, okay, what is the method? If this is A, name this terminal as A. If this end is B, go along the wire. This is also at same potential B. First resistor is between AB. Second also between AB. Third is also between AB. What is this equivalent to? 3 2-ohm resistors connected in parallel. Answer will be 2 by 3 ohms. Okay, when metal wires are connected. Then if A and B are together, unfolding, pull this B outside and A outside. If this end is B, I'll call this point as C. All these points on the circle are at same potential. And C. Open the loop. If I pull this A outside, where is this resistor between A and C? A and C. A and C. But this resistor is between B and C. Redraw the circuit. A, C and B. First resistor is between A and C. This is also between A and C. A and C. Between B and C. 1 ohm, 3, 3 and 3. All the 3 in parallel, it will become 1 plus 1. What should your answer be? 2 ohms. Come to this case. Okay, so this is end is A and this end is B and this wire is a loop. Okay, that means they are not connected to each other. It is just passing over this one. Name all these terminals. If this is A, this is A and A. All these are at same potential B and the B. Where is the first resistor between A and B? Second one between A and B. Third is also between A and B. Fourth is also between A and B. So what is this equivalent to? 4 resistors, each of 1 ohm connected parallel to each other. Answer 1/4 ohms. Now come to infinite series. Okay, how will you solve for infinite series? A simple infinite series network. Identify the repeating branch. 1, 1 and 1. All are 1 ohm resistors. Is this a branch which is continuously repeating? So till one branch, leaving one branch, we will assume the resistance till here as equal to X. The equivalent resistance also should be equal to X. So how is X connected to 1 and 1? These three are in series. So between A and B, this is a 1 ohm resistor, 2 plus X. 2 plus X and 1 are in parallel combination. So what should your X be equal to? 2 plus X into 1 bulb. 2 plus X plus 1. You will actually get a quadratic equation. Solve the quadratic equation, you can find out what is the equivalent resistance. Then look at this circuit. Okay, we have already studied. This is a Wheatstone bridge. Okay, from A we have 2 resistors, from B we have 2 resistors, and this is your central resistor. If P by Q is equal to R by S, what should be the current in the central resistor? 0. So when you remove this, 5 and 5 in series 10, 5 and 5 in series 10, it's a balanced Wheatstone bridge, 10 and 10 in parallel, you will get back the answer as 5 volts. But while solving the question of a Wheatstone bridge principle, if the bridge is unbalanced, they may ask you what will be the direction of current. Say I'll show you a Wheatstone bridge, but an unbalanced Wheatstone bridge. Five ohms, 10 and 5. If I call this as A, B, C and D. And the central resistor, I will take it as some value, say 5. So for this arrangement, they may ask you what is the direction of current in BD. Because it's an unbalanced bridge. 5 by 10 is not equal to 10 by 5. Whether current flows from B to D or D to B. Then tell me how will you solve this? If it is an unbalanced Wheatstone bridge, then check the product of these two resistors. Okay, if I call this as P, Q, R and S. If the product of P into Q is greater than R into S, then current flows from D to a B. Check product of these two. 5 into 5, 25 and 10 into 10 is 100. So PQ we have got less than RS. Then current flows from B to D. You remember the condition? If this product is greater than this product, current will flow from D to B. If PQ product is less than this product, current will flow from B to a D. Then how will you find out the equivalent resistance of this network? Okay, hope you remember this is R to R network. Okay, we have used the star delta conversions and I have proved that. Okay, you can refer once. R to R, R to R and R. What is the formula we have got for equivalent resistance? 7R by 5, where R is nothing but 5 ohms. So 5 into 7 by 5, answer comes out to be 7. So either you can use Kirchhoff law and solve it, or you can also make use of star delta conversion. The final result we will get it as 7R divided by 5. Okay, but provided if it is R and 2R, 2R and R network. So this is the point that you need to remember regarding a Wheatstone bridge. Now coming to some more applications. Look at few more questions. So here this is a network of resistors and they are asking you to find out equivalent resistance between A and D. See, A is this point and D is this point. So we are connecting a power supply between these two terminals. Then this and this, that means C and D resistors, they are open circuits. So since they are open, you can remove these resistors. No current will pass through them. Now observe the circuit, is it reduced? 10, all are 10 ohm resistors. Okay, 10 plus 10 in series 20, 10 plus 10 in series 20, 20 and 20 in parallel will become 10 and all the three are in series. So what will be the equivalent resistance for this type of arrangement? 30 ohms. Now come to cubical networks. Okay, in cubical networks we have studied three different cases. First one is between the principal diagonal. Okay, if current enters from one end and leaves from the other. Okay, this is for a principal diagonal. For any principal diagonal, what is the answer we have got? If all of them are identical resistors, if each branch has a resistance capital R. Okay, we know R equivalent is 5R by 6. Then come between A and D. Okay, A and D is one side of a cube. This is also one side. For all the edges of a cube, we have 12 such edges. For edge. Okay, I am not showing you the calculation. Okay, after simplifying, we will get the answer as R equivalent equal to. Okay, for one edge of a cube, what is the answer? 7R by 12. For capacitors, you will get opposite. For resistor, it is 7R by 12. And if it is between D and G, okay, between the ends of a diagonal, phase diagonal. For any phase diagonal, what will your equivalent resistance of a cubical network be? 3R divided by 4. Okay, for cubical networks, you can remember this. If each resistor is having a resistance or if each edge is having a resistance capital R, three different possible ways you may get a question. Then look at this where symmetry rule is applicable. Assume each resistance is capital R. See, do we have a parallel axis of symmetry? If I draw a line like this, it has a parallel axis of symmetry. If you have a parallel axis of symmetry, okay, I told you, you can fold the circuit. So when you fold this, R and R are in parallel combination. These two are in parallel. These two are in parallel. Okay, when you fold the circuit, okay, if I remove the lower half, all these resistors will become R by 2, R by 2, R by 2 and R by 2. And then you can solve by using series and parallel. Or this circuit also has a parallel axis, means perpendicular axis of symmetry. Okay, if I remove this as R by 2 and R by 2, here also I will make it R by 2 and R by 2. It has parallel axis of symmetry also, perpendicular axis of symmetry. If you have a perpendicular axis of symmetry, you can remove this junction. Join the upper two, join the lower two, and then you can solve and find out the equivalent resistance. So these are some of the questions where different formulas are used and to evaluate the equivalent resistance.